Given that the reveal of the final shape is fast approaching, I thought it would be fun to try to predict what will happen in the story leading up to and inside the expansion before anything is actually revealed. Then, after the expansion releases, I plan to take a look back at my predictions and see what I got right and what I got wrong. Because this is all in the name of fun, I'm gonna rank my predictions on a 10-point confidence scale, where 0 is something that I think will definitely not happen, and 10 is something that is guaranteed. Keep in mind that this is based on my interpretation, and I will absolutely get predictions wrong. I find making wild theories and speculating about the future of stories I'm invested in to be an interesting intellectual exercise, but I'm not wedded to any of my predictions. I will not be upset if they don't come true, and I may change my mind about them later. I also want to say that I don't look at leaks and make an effort to avoid looking at them, so none of this is based on any kind of leaks or spoilers about unreleased content, because I prefer to see things the way Bungie intended them and not have anything spoiled before it's able to be revealed in-game. Marketing is fair game though. This video will contain spoilers for all currently released Destiny lore. My first two predictions will be regarding the seasons leading up to the final shape, seasons 22 and 23. They will undoubtedly set the stage for the final shape, particularly season 23. My first prediction is that Savathun will return and will ally herself with the Vanguard. This prediction is all but confirmed by the end of season 21, so I will give it a 10 out of 10. Savathun's return from the dead has been foreshadowed from the moment she died at the end of the Witch Queen campaign, and it would make absolutely no sense for Bungie not to play that card. At the very end of Season of the Deep story, Asa says that the path to follow the witness through the portal is obscured, but that the Witch Queen knows the way. Recently, it's been hinted that she's responsible for the witness failing to completely kill the Traveler during the collapse. In Root of Nightmares, Nezarec says she hid the veil from the witness before betraying Nezarec and killing him. Season 22 will likely follow Savathun's resurrection and subsequent decision about whether to ally herself with the Vanguard to fight the witness. I would also guess that we'll receive answers about what Savathun did during the collapse and the reason the witness needed to use the veil to create the portal. My theory is that Season 22 will be focused on the Lucent Hive and their relation to Xivu Arath and the Witness. Savathun's plan at the end of the Witch Queen campaign was to hide the Traveler from the Witness so that she could protect it, so she definitely doesn't want the Witness to succeed in their plans. Because Season 23 still needs to happen, I'm betting that Savathun will give in, make a truce with the Vanguard, and explain the path to the Witness at the very end of the season. This theory is based on the pattern we've seen since Beyond Light, where Bungie has been dividing each enemy species into factions that are allied with and against the Vanguard. This started with the Cabal in Season of the Chosen, where we made a peace treaty with Kaido. It continued in Season of the Splicer with House Light joining the Last City, although humanity has been allied with factions of the Elixni since the Reef Wars. The Lucent Hive were set up as a potential but more difficult ally in the Witch Queen, so I think that idea will be paid off in Season 22. Whether the Alliance will stand the test of time is a completely different question altogether though. My second prediction concerns Season 23. Given that Seasons 20, 21, and 22 will have focused on the Shadow Legion, Taken, and Hive, all enemy factions related to the Darkness, I predict that Season 23 will largely be focused on the Scorn. As we follow the path Savathun lays out for us to enter the portal, no doubt using the veil in some way, I believe the Scorn will try to interfere and stop us. I have a few pieces of evidence for this. First, the Scorn have long been in conflict with the Lucent Hive dating back to the Witch Queen expansion, and haven't been at the forefront of the story since. Second, the Vow of the Disciple prophecy, which I will discuss in depth later on in this video, states that the Hive and Scorn love darkness and worship the Witness. I believe this is setting them up, along with the Hive, to have a major role in the events leading up to the final shape. I also believe that the Season 23 dungeon will be a Scorn dungeon, given that every enemy faction except for the Scorn and Shadow Legion have now received at least one dungeon. The Scorn make the most sense given that the last time we had a new piece of endgame content focused on them was the Vow of the Disciple raid back in 2022. Bungie likes to rotate each enemy faction in and out of the story to keep the narrative fresh and the gameplay interesting. I'm still fairly confident in this prediction, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. As for the narrative beats of the season, Aramis is a major player in the conflict that we haven't heard from recently. She was last relevant to the story in Season 19 when we learned that her friends were slowly being killed and turned into scorn by the Witness. Aramis has been set up as a tragic figure by the Destiny story. She chose to ally with the Witness and use the darkness, but still has some good in her. She's a leader of the Elixni dating back to the Whirlwind, who at times has been conflicted about her connection to the Traveler. She sent her mate and hatchling to leave the Sol system before the events of Beyond Light, so I believe that she will have a tragic ending. I think she will try to defect from the Witness's side to help House Light in Season 23, and will subsequently be killed and resurrected as a Scorn. I believe the resurrection would break her and she would fall back in line, subservient to the Witness. I'm giving this prediction a confidence level of 5 because I think it's about 50-50 at this point whether or not Aramis is redeemed or she dies. She would make an interesting candidate for the dungeon boss, but I think that makes less sense than another member of the Scorn. I believe the dungeon in Season 23 will focus on Fickrel. He's been AWOL, having been driven out of the Tangled Shore shortly before the events of the Witch Queen, and is a major wild card in the story. The logical connection here is that Crow, Fickrel's father after creating him by making a wish to Riven to save his life, creating Dark Ether in the Scorn, will likely also make an appearance as the person leading the Vanguard operation. In this theory, he would be what Eris is to Duality, or what Osiris is to Spire of the Watcher. Fickrel has the ability to resurrect himself after dying, which makes him essentially impossible to completely defeat. I'm not sure if we will fight him directly or his surrogates, but he'll undoubtedly play a role in a Scorn dungeon. This connection is too interesting for Bungie not to expand upon, so I think we'll see Crow conflicted about his role in creating Fickrel and the catharsis of their relationship. Because we can't kill Fickrel outright, I think Crow will take a different tactic and try to convince him to join us in the fight against the Witness. Thus, Fickrel will ultimately be swayed by his father and join the Vanguard. This belief is also based on the pattern of each enemy species gaining a Witness and Vanguard faction over the course of the Light and Dark saga. My confidence in this idea is a bit higher at a 7 out of 10. The lore from Season of Plunder and Defiance seem to be foreshadowing that Ida will become the next Cal of House Light. In these seasons, she fulfills many of Mithrax's duties whenever he's absent from the last city. Of course, this requires that her father must either retire or die. I think the more likely option is that he dies now that Aramis is no longer around to protect him like she did in Season of Defiance. I think if this is going to actually happen, Season 23 seems like the logical time. I would give this the same 5 out of 10 confidence I gave the Aramis death prediction. I have one remaining prediction leading up to the final shape. I think we will see the conclusion of Crow's character arc by him finally becoming the Hunter Vanguard. This was foreshadowed by Cade's Vanguard Dare saying that whoever killed him should be named the next Hunter Vanguard. Crow's resurrection as a Guardian and subsequent appearance as a Hunter has slowly built towards the conclusion that he'll become the next Hunter Vanguard. I don't think there's much else you can really do with the character at this point because I think it'll fulfill the 5-year-long redemption arc we've seen over many seasons. I believe it'll happen sometime before the final shape, but I'm not wedded to any particular timeline for it. It would create maximum drama for Crow to become Hunter Vanguard right before Cade returns, as we've seen he will in the final shape from the teaser, which would create an even more complicated and interesting dynamic. After all, Cade wanted the Hunter who killed him to replace him, so I don't think he would hold a grudge against Crow, but I do think it would cause significant disagreement within the last city about what should happen now that Cade is back alive. It would help the drama surrounding Crow reach the highest climax possible. I'm fairly confident in this one, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. With the path to the final shape laid, it's time to talk about the expansion itself. I believe that the Vow of the Disciple prophecy and Elsie's dark timeline are the two most important pieces of foreshadowing about what will happen in this expansion. Let's first talk about the prophecy. During Vow of the Disciple's jumping puzzle, there's a wall of blank symbols. Each run of the raid, a different symbol appears on the wall. The last symbol is always blank. The community has collectively put all of the symbols together to decode the following text. Hive and Scorn love darkness, worship Witness. Pyramid Fleet enter Earth, stop Guardian. Witness commune, Traveler drink light. Witness kill blank. All of this prophecy has come true at this point except the last 5 symbols. At the time of Vow of the Disciple, we already knew that certain factions of the Hive and Scorn love the darkness and worship the Witness. The Pyramid Fleet entered Earth's orbit during the opening of Lightfall. At the end of the campaign, the fleet stopped the Guardian and the Witness communed with the Traveler using Ghost and the Veil. We haven't seen the Witness drink the light and kill something yet. All we know is that they used the Veil to open a portal on the surface of the Traveler. I think the Witness will drink the light Gaul style at some point during the events of the final shape with 10 out of 10 certainty. What I'm less certain of is who the Witness will kill. My best theory at this point is that the Witness will either kill Ghost or the entity inside the Traveler that powers the life of ghosts, killing him by proxy. I think this is the Witness's master plan given that their philosophy is unending life being dangerous for the universe at large, and the Traveler and Ghost provide resurrection. I'm less certain about this, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10. You might think that this breaks the narrative and gameplay structure of Destiny by taking away the player's ability to respawn, but I don't think it actually will. I'll explain why in a minute. Elsie's dark future refers to the time loop that the exo-stranger Elsie Bray has been stuck in, where she relives the events of the second collapse until she dies, then is sent to a point earlier in the timeline to start over, Groundhog Day style. The Witness is aware Elsie is stuck in the loop and thinks it's futile for her to try to stop them. The key piece of information about this loop is that she tells stories of Guardians using the powers of the darkness and becoming corrupted by them, turning against the Traveler. I think we'll see this unfold at a large scale during the final shape. Some Guardians will be swayed against the Traveler and to the side of the Witness. This will cause a schism where some Guardians abandon the Traveler and use the darkness to fight alongside the Witness's coalition. This could be caused for a number of reasons, whether it be the true nature of the Traveler being revealed, or seeing Ghost die causing a crisis of faith. I'm fairly confident in the outcome, but not the cause. I would give this a 7 out of 10. In the ensuing battle between Guardians, I think many will die, including the player Guardian, now that they no longer have a ghost. However, I think this will not be a final death, because it'll be revealed that the Guardian has a throne world that they built through their various paracausal accomplishments over the years. Throne worlds have been established on far weaker deeds than slaying gods, so it seems suspect to me that the Guardian doesn't already have a throne world. I think this is a card Bungie has been saving for a future reveal. I also think the third Darkness subclass in the final shape will be tied to our throne world and discovered there. If the throne world isn't the Guardian's throne world, it could possibly be the throne world of the Traveler itself, likely called the Garden, which would potentially explain Cade returning in the final shape teaser released back in May. If the Garden in the teaser is in fact the throne world of the Traveler, I think it would then be explained that ghosts draw on the throne world of the Traveler and use its power to resurrect Guardians, so that now that ghosts are dead, Guardians can still be resurrected by the Traveler's throne world. I'm a bit less confident in this idea, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. As for the nature of the subclass, I think it'll be the opposite of Arc. Each Darkness subclass so far has been a complementary but contrasting version of one of the light subclasses. First we had Stasis, which is an ice-based subclass, which is the opposite of fire-based solar. Next we got Strand, which is all about cosmic strings, which is an interesting analog and contrast to Void, which is all about black holes and explosions. The contrast is a bit more esoteric, but one is about order and structure while the other is about chaos and entropy. That leaves Arc as the remaining light subclass which hasn't received its opposite. I think the most logical candidate would be some kind of magnetism and telekinesis based subclass. The pedant physicist in me wants to tell you that electricity and magnetism technically aren't opposite forces, but are both manifestations of the same underlying phenomenon. However, in the lore it has been said that light and darkness are fundamental forces of the universe that used to be unified but have since split apart, much like many of the fundamental forces in physics. But I digress. I think magnetism is the perfect complement to Arc's electricity, and some kind of telekinetic ability would be fun to play with in combat. However, it's possible that Bungie could come up with something out of left field like Strand was when everybody thought it would be a poison subclass, so I'm not confident at all and would give this a 4 out of 10. Another interesting idea from magnetism that could be played out in the gameplay would be manipulating the brains of our enemies. This sounds like a wild concept, but it's actually based on real medicine and biology, as doctors and scientists are able to stimulate the brain using magnets and trigger certain sensations. We could possibly do something like influence the minds of our enemies and confuse or control them somehow, which would be really interesting from a gameplay perspective. This is kind of a crackpot theory though. My next prediction is how we will defeat the Witness. I think the Guardian will need to overcome the forces of all major factions allied with the Witness: Scorn, Hive, Taken, House Salvation, Dark Guardians, and Shadow Legion. Once they do, they'll find themselves in a battle with the Witness themselves. The way we defeat the Witness will be to either use the third Darkness subclass, or some combination of all Light and Darkness subclasses to sever the connection between each consciousness inside the mind of the Witness. This is where this idea of the Darkness being able to manipulate consciousness, and doing that somehow through magnetism, comes into play. Then we'll fight each submind of the Witness in their throne worlds and defeat them now that they're severed. This will end the Witness and usher in the next era of the Destiny story. I would give this prediction a confidence level of 6 out of 10. I'm a bit torn on whether the Witness will return after the campaign as a raid boss or not. As for the raid, I think there are 5 possible options, which is a bit of a cop-out from me of a prediction. We haven't seen a Lucent Brood raid, so the raid boss could be Savathun, who turns on us after we defeat the Witness. However, it could be Xivu Arath or Scorn Aramis as well. Each of these could be boss fights in either the raid or the dungeon, or saved for future events beyond the final shape. The Witness will likely die in the campaign, but it's possible we may need to fight them in the raid for a second time, Oryx style. There could even be a prominent Dark Guardian that we need to fight in the raid, but at this point I'm not confident enough in that idea to predict any specific character. Given how many options there are, I'm very unconfident and will give this a 2 out of 10. To recap all of my predictions I made in this video: number 1, Savathun returns and allies with the Vanguard. Number 2, there's a Scorn dungeon and seasonal narrative in Season 23. Number 3, Fikrul is involved in the Season 23 Scorn dungeon, and Crow convinces him to ally with the Vanguard. Number 4, Aramis dies and becomes a Scorn. Number 5, Mithrax is killed by Scorn Aramis, and Ido becomes Kel of House Light. Number 6, Crow becomes Hunter Vanguard. Number 7, the Witness kills the entity inside the Traveler that powers all ghosts. Number 8, a faction of Dark Guardians will ally themselves with the Witness and against the Guardian. Number 9, the Guardian has a throne world in the Ascendant Plane, which allows them to be reborn after their death. Other powerful Guardians also have throne worlds and survive there after the destruction of ghosts. Alternatively, the Traveler has a throne world that all Guardians are able to access. Number 10, the Guardian discovers the third Darkness subclass in their throne world, and it's based upon magnetism, telekinesis, and mind control. Number 11, the Witness is killed by severing the dark connection between each member of its species' minds using the forces of light and darkness. And finally, number 12, the final shape's raid boss will be one of the following in decreasing order of likelihood: the Witness, Savathun after she betrays us following the death of the Witness, Xivu Arath, Scorn Aramis, or a Dark Guardian. Regardless of what happens in the future of the story, I'm excited to see what will happen next. The final shape reveal is on August 22nd, so we'll get answers soon. Let me know in the comments what your tinfoil hat predictions are for the final shape. I'll be interested to read through them. If you enjoyed this video, I would recommend watching my previous video discussing Savathun and why she's my favorite Destiny character. I made it as kind of a primer for the next season, which will obviously feature Savathun. My name is eforme, and I would like to thank you for watching.